Hey Vineyard, I'd like to invite you to something new. This Christmas, to make a gift towards overseas missions work, specifically towards church planting. 20 years ago, we joined hands to invest in planting churches in Zimbabwe. It's been a hard road. We've actually had more setbacks than victories, at least in the material realm. We watched a nation fall apart, facing the highest inflation in the world, 70% unemployment, forced immigration, hunger, starvation, hopelessness. We've watched churches that we've planted struggle and fold as their members fled the country. And yet, people that were just kids when we started this project are picking up the pieces and taking this thing farther than any foreign missionary ever could. In 2013, we sent Zimbabwe natives Martin and Margaret Emerson to help plant a church in the capital city of Harare. That church is now steadily growing, reaching into the lives of people in one of the most desperate situations on that continent. That church is focused on reaching beyond the walls of the church, starting small groups and kids clubs around the city, and taking to the streets to bring the hope of Jesus to a desperate nation. There are a lot of opportunities and I suppose demands at Christmas to give. A lot of good causes out there, but none quite like church planting. You've probably heard the old adage, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. That's true, but it misses something. Where do you find all the generous people to do that kind of teaching and fishing? That's not a given. Most of the world is just too focused on feeding their own appetites to give much away. But you plant a church, and if the church does its job well, it will lead self-centered people into an encounter with God, an encounter that will transform them into generous, overflowing people, the kind of love and generosity it takes to transform an entire community. That's why we do church planting. Ten years ago, we also joined with a couple that had taken their retirement to serve the poor in an impoverished, drug-infested ghetto in Costa Rica. We sent teams of students and adults to serve. Along the way, incredible prayers were answered, healings happened, and to our great surprise, a church was born out of the passions of a few lonely Costa Rican teenagers who wanted to have a local church to call home. In a community of utter hopelessness, a church is now thriving with local leadership. We spent years teaching them, serving with them, teaching them how to lead small groups, how to care for their neighbors, how to pray for the sick. We sent them money to take their own missions trips to Nicaragua to learn their own lessons. We helped them build and furnish a beautiful church facility. The home we used to house American teams is now a nonprofit community education center that engages over 100 locals from affluent communities to teach sports and arts and job skills and cooking in a community where 10 years ago, crack cocaine was one of the few options for a young person. The teenagers who we first met 10 years ago are now getting married, getting educated, getting jobs, and leading the church and caring for the poor and teaching the next generation behind them to fish, as it were. Sometimes people ask, why go to Africa or Latin America to do missions work? Aren't there enough problems here in the US? The reason we keep going back is because every person I've ever taken has had their heart enlarged and their hands opened. It's changed the way they live at home. In fact, our food pantry, the recovery ministries we've done, our financial classes, single moms ministries, car repair, all of those ministries were directly inspired and shaped by the vision God planted in our hearts while serving overseas. This month of December, I'm inviting you to give toward the mission work we'll do in 2017. We hope to send $15,000 to our partners in Zimbabwe. We hope to give a large gift to our Costa Rican church family, buying equipment they couldn't buy on their own. We hope to give scholarship money so that local church can send their own teens on missions trips they couldn't afford themselves. On December 18th and 25th, together we'll give. We'll give the gift of church this Christmas. I hope you'll join us.